Welcome to You Can Call Me Goddess because you're so much more than a queen. My name is Manuk Vink. I am a trained intuitive energy healer specialized in transforming your body and your life. In this podcast, we are going to be diving into everything to unlock the goddess that you are within you. Think of it as the ultimate glow up from the inside out. It's time to unlock your power. It's time to unlock your magic. So sit back and enjoy the show. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another You Can Call Me Goddess podcast. And I am recording these in advance because by now, when I release this podcast, I am going to be on a holiday. I haven't been on a trip in quite a while, so I'm very excited for this. And actually, that actually leads me into the perfect segue of this, but we'll dive into that in just a second. I just want to let you know if at any moment, because there's a Christmas market downstairs near where I live, if at any moment you hear music or background noise, I'm so sorry. It's the market. They're very loud. So just ignore that or use it as a little background music in the background of this podcast. And also on top of that, I'm dealing with a reflection, which I am solving and it's already getting better. I partially lost my voice. I think it was yesterday that it fully started cracking, or the day before. And I mean, big reflections are there for me for feeling like that's what it means, feeling like what you say doesn't matter. So, and that in combination with coughing, little nugget for you guys is not feeling heard. So there have been moments. This is the thing with the reflections. We're going in a little bit of a different direction here. This is the thing with the reflections. It can be like even a small little thought in your subconscious that can start growing and then becoming bigger. And that's what's going to create the physical response, because our conscious mind doesn't want to dive into the top or tries to protect us from the reality of what's really going on. The subconscious still, has that programming or has that belief in the back. And so because we don't go and connect with the subconscious unless you know how to do that intuitively, you are going to need outside reflections to let you know what is going on a subconscious level. I think we're going to dive into a podcast about that topic another day, but because today I wanted to dive into something else. But that is what is happening with me. So that's a little nugget of information for you. So I have been working through that reflection, figuring out, I know where it's coming from, but diving deeper into that. But it's already, and doing some healings on my throat so that I don't actually get sick before I go. But I think I'm good. So far, so good. Knock on wood. I know I should. I don't know if you do that, but I still do that, even though I know it's all about what you create in the end. Anyways, so today I wanted to talk about this topic that we call the universal law of fair exchange. And so you can kind of see it as, well, let me just dive into it. So basically fair exchange is being in balance with someone. So not feeling indebted to or not feeling like you owe someone. So I'll give you a little bit of an example. I can actually give the example of the holiday. I actually managed to manifest this holiday for free. So, but maybe just the things that I am doing on the trip I will have to pay for, but the tickets are paid for. A lot of the stuff is paid for. Even my flights to go visit my family first, it's all been paid for by people that I love. So they're paying for it. So I manifested this trip for free, and I am very excited because I'm very excited for this trip, and also actually manifested some early Christmas presents as well. So let's dive into that, because how do I say this? Have I done this? Yeah, I've managed to do this with certain trips, but we're actually going to, for good prices and things, manage to manifest these things. But I want to first talk about the fair exchange component. So in the past, and I know I see this with people around me, I used to have this as well, and I'm going to use another example of mine. When someone does something like that for you, you feel like oh my God, because I have money mindset stuff from when I was from my dear dad. who has given us all a little bit of a traumatic view on financial situations. It's a big scarcity mindset going on. And I know that I speak to more of you because I know this is not only me that struggles with that. And that is this idea that you're always running out, right? So this feeling of like, there's never enough. Like, we're running out. We need to do this. We need to do that. Okay. But again, another topic for another day, but just wanted to touch upon that, which is not true, right? Money is abundant. It's everywhere. When you start seeing that, you will also attract more of that, right? So basically, okay. So fair exchange, we're going to go into that because I could right now feel indebted, right? Feel indebted to the people who paid for my tickets. Feel indebted to the fact that I got this free trip. And this comes a lot of the time, especially if you are a spiritual person, a lot of the time we will have that feeling because we're giving, right? We are how do I say that? Over givers, overcompensation. We always overcompensate. Like I used to do that. Like when someone compliments me, I feel like I need to immediately compliment them back. And I'm sure, I know you, there are a few of you in here that are listening to this, sorry for my stuttering, that have that same feeling. I've spoken to many people who struggle with the same thing. And so it even comes down to, you can go back to if you have parents and say your parents give you X amount of money to go study and get a degree, buy a house, etc., right? We can feel indebted. And that means that in that moment, you're feeling out of fair exchange. So you feel like there isn't a fair exchange between you and that person. So therefore, there is this, and we've spoken about this, you've got your electromagnetic field. So you've got your electromagnetic field, and your electromagnetic field is your creator field. So it dictates all matter, situation, circumstance, opportunities around you. So that is the script that people pick up. So they walk into your energy, they read like unknowingly are reading the script that you're handing out about how you feel. So this is the tricky thing with the actually really good. This is why intuition is amazing. Like it's actually tying in that I talked about that really briefly just now. So basically the subconscious mind is way more powerful in creating everything around us. So it actually creates 90 to 95% of our situation circumstance. And the conscious mind, so the ego or the human self, is also, there's multiple ways that we refer to this inside the spiritual world, is less effective at creating, because it's like the ego, it only creates 5 to 10% of our reality, but that's what's at the forefront of our mind and our subconscious program. So in the back of our mind, the things that are subconsciously playing in the background aren't so much at the forefront, because the conscious mind tries to kind of, like, I like to look at it like as a bodyguard, tries to protect us from the real deep shit and make us feel good in the moment. But the issue with that is that we don't get to the root cause of a lot of stuff, and we don't fix the things that are running in the background that are creating situations that we'd rather not have, or are creating our reality. Because I want you to understand something. You are always manifesting, like literally always manifesting. You're always creating everything around you, which means you have full creator power over your entire reality. And that is very important for you to understand, because I know you're powerful. You innately are powerful. Like you just are. It's just, the problem is we have never been taught how to use our power correctly, basically. And I always think of like books that I'm reading or shows that I'm watching, because it's so funny. There's always some form of truth in those stories, right? Where they say that, you have this power, this unlocked power, you just don't know how to use it. And it's funny because we all do. And I always like just identify with those characters, because it's like, oh my God, we have this magic, we have this wand, we have this superpower, and we just have never gotten the instructions. We've never been told that we have this innate power, and you do. So we keep looking at the outside to help us, but in reality, you've got everything. You've got everything to do what you want. It's just you don't know how it works. And it's because, and that's why intuition is so freaking cool, because you get to figure out how to shift that. But also, when you have a deeper understanding of spiritual tools, spiritual laws of the universe, you already will get like a deeper understanding of all of that. And this is like only scratching the surface of what you can create, right? So, but I'm going to give you a deeper understanding of this. So basically that means in the subconscious, there's things playing, right? There's like a tape playing that you're not very aware of. It's there and it comes out at times when you're feeling like insecure maybe, or when someone emotionally attacks you, or, you know, like then it comes out. It's like when you have those unprocessed emotions or thoughts and they start like coming out at certain moments and times, because it's still a program that's running in the back. But sometimes we are so good at deflecting from what's really running in the background that we don't actually know, you know, what's actually playing. And that's where sometimes reflections are necessary. So these obstacles that we experience, like me losing my voice, it's like, hey, bitch, you're feeling like what you're saying doesn't matter. And this is like a signal for me to look into that and figure out what that is. But if I didn't have an understanding of how the body communicates with me, or I didn't have an understanding of how reflections work, unless like the obstacle gets to such a high, you wouldn't know what's going on. But see, now I'm going on another tangent. I love to go on tangents. But anyways, so that's just a little explanation. I think we'll leave that for another episode where I'll dive into that a little bit deeper. But basically, what I'm trying to say is what happens. So you and your parent gives you X amount of money, and they give you that money to go to uni, to buy a house, to do this and that. So now imagine, at that moment, you didn't do everything that, which is partially part of my story. You didn't do everything that your parents told you to do with that money. Like in their mind, they had that in mind, right? What can start happening is you can start feeling indebted to them because they gave you X amount of money to put into X, Y, and Z, and now you've done something else. Or they gave you X amount of money and they lent it to you, right? They borrowed it to you and now you have to pay them back, but you didn't. Or you didn't do with it what they, like I said, they wanted you to do with it. What this does, it's going to cause you to feel indebted to that person. Or me with my holiday. It didn't, but it could make me feel like I'm indebted to that person. And why that's a problem is because when you are indebted to someone, your thoughts and emotions about that are going to be running either at the forefront or in the background, but they're going to be running. They're going to be running, and you're going to have this program in your energetic field that says indebted, I'm indebted, I'm indebted, I'm in debt, I'm in debt, I'm in debt. So what does this do? First of all, you're going to create more situations and circumstances that cause you to be indebted, because that is what the universe works in this way. It picks up certain things, and that's what's going to create more of that. So it's going to create more of that debt. But not only that, when people interact with you, they are going to read in your energetic field that you're in debt, right? You're in debt. So when you want to invest in someone, do you want to invest in debt? No, of course not. You don't want to invest in debt. You don't want to invest in someone that doesn't know how to handle money. You don't want to invest in someone who feels out of balance and feels like they owe someone something, right? That's not where you want to put your money. You don't want to put your money in more debt. You don't want to put your money in places where it's out of balance. So that's the fight. And the thing is, this can be let me see if I can find some other examples of that, because this isn't only a money thing. This has to do with absolutely everything. So when you have a social interaction, like I said, when someone compliments you and you feel like you need to compliment them, and you don't, for example, you're going to feel like you're indebted to them. You owe them something. So then you're going to create more situations where you owe people things, or where people feel like they owe you. No, you owe them. Sorry. It's where you owe them. So you're going to start getting situations where people are going to take more of your energy because you have that in your energetic field. Like, you owe me, you owe me, you owe me, right? Like they feel like and this is the thing, it doesn't go into the negative. So it doesn't go into working positively for you. That's what I'm trying to say, because it's a negative energetic exchange. So it feels like, it's always going to be like that person feels owed, or that person feels like you're indebted. So that's why that's a problem. So what's the issue here? How would you fix something where you're out of fair exchange? Most people would immediately go, well, then you just pay them back, or this or that. But here's the deal. Universally, you're never actually out of exchange. The universe is always in balance. And that is because when someone exchanges something for something else, so for example, you get X amount of money from your parents, in that exact moment, you are in fair exchange. The problem is our perception. So our perception is so freaking powerful that if we perceive that we're out of exchange, then that's what's going to be the narrative. Basically, that's what's going to be broadcasting out in our energetic field. So to get back into fair exchange, we don't need to do anything other than see how everything is already in balance. And this is a little bit of a more advanced concept. So if you lose me anywhere, just take a second, see if you can re-listen. Always feel free to reach out if you're lost or you want some more information on this. But it's extremely important to get a deeper understanding of that. Now, yeah, we're going to dive into that a little bit later. But there's so much to say on this topic. That's the thing, because this is a very life-changing understanding, especially if you are someone who overcompensates, right? Because what we end up doing when we feel indebted, we're going to start doing things like overcompensating, right? So if someone does something for us, we're going to feel like we need to do more for them. So for example, if you're in a relationship and your husband pays for everything, what starts to happen is you're going to feel indebted. But the thing is, you're not. So what you're going to do is you're going to start overcompensating. And how can this become a problem? It can become a problem because you're going to overwork yourself. You're going to give too much of your energy away. You're going to have that debt in your energetic field, and your partner is going to pick up on that. So they're going to read in your energetic field, she owes me. And so they're going to feel like you owe them. But that's all because of you. It has nothing to do with them. If you fix the fair exchange in your energetic field, they're not going to feel like you owe them. Does that make sense? That's how much power you have. So if you can see the balance, that person will see the balance. So that means that there's always that balance. So you're not owing anybody anything. So the issue is the perception. It doesn't mean now you need to make money to pay the person, because you're already in balance. You're already always in fair exchange. So I'm going to give you an example of this. So I'll use a few. If, for example, your parent gives you X amount of money, in that moment, you're immediately in balance. The thing that throws it off is your perception. So how do we fix the perception? We see what the other person gains from giving us that money, because they do. The reason your parent has given you, for example, X amount of dollars or euros is because they want you to succeed, feel safe, and be successful, right? And they want to know that they had a hand in that. So that could be part of the reason. So they feel good about themselves because they've given you that money. So now they know they've done everything that they could to give you the future that was good for you. So in that moment, whatever they gave you was worth that amount of money, which means the moment they handed you the money, you were in balance. You were in fair exchange. Does that make sense? So there is never, and you're never out of balance. You are always in fair exchange, which means the moment they hand you X amount of dollars, it's in balance. They feel good about themselves. They've given you that money. They've given you that money with a specific purpose to keep you protected, to keep you safe, to get you a good start in whatever you want to build or grow, right? And they taken that risk of giving you that money because then they can feel good about themselves for being a good parent. So the X amount of dollars was worth that amount of money. So in that moment, that was worth that value. So in that moment, you were in fair exchange. No one is indebted to anybody. No one is indebted to anybody. So I'm going to take you to an even more crazy explanation. Even, for example, if you if you are late or you miss a payment for the bank or something like that, the moment you miss the payment, you don't owe anybody anything. You don't owe anybody anything because in that moment, the bank learns a lesson that they need to fix their protocols. So that's how you're in fair exchange. They learn a lesson from it. So that was the value of that. So in that moment, you are already imbalanced. The lesson they learned was the value of the missed payment. So they learned that lesson so that now in future, they will never miss that payment ever again. So that now they have more systems in place so that they know how to fix that. And if you didn't miss that payment, they wouldn't have learned that lesson. So you're always 100% of the time in fair exchange. And there's a little caveat to that, which I'm going to talk about in just a little bit. But I want you to realize that. And why I want you to realize that is because if in the Goddess Academy, as a goddess, stepping into your power, honing in on your value and your capabilities, which we're going to dive into in just a second as well, overcompensating is going to do damage to your value, is going to do damage to you attracting more financial abundance, is going to do damage to your self-worth and your, like I said, value. Because if you're feeling indebted, if you're overcompensating, then that's what you're going to be getting in your energetic field, because then people around you are always going to know that they're going to get more out of you than you were meant to give, right? So for example, take an example of someone who's always doing everything for other people, out of overcompensation because you feel indebted somehow, right? People are going to use that to their advantage. People, and we are too, you, me, I am too. We are all very selfish beings. So in the moment, that's why fair exchange is, everything's always in fair exchange. In the moment when we do something for someone else, we always see how it's benefiting us that we're doing something else for someone else, right? So think about any situation that you've been in. In the moment you do something, you are programmed to kind of think of, what am I getting out of this? Why would I do something like this, right? And you're getting some sort of value out of it. So even when you're in an argument with your partner, you're in fair exchange. So that's a little bit of a crazy one, but it's so true. In the moment that you're arguing with your partner, for example, and you're screaming and shouting and you're having a disagreement about something, you're both getting something out of that, right? Even if, for example, you feel like you're being the devil in that moment, in reality, they're learning a lesson from this whole situation. That's why fair exchange applies in all situations and circumstances. It's not just financial. So if you feel like you're being a complete asshole to someone else, they are learning something from that asshole situation. Does that mean you can be an asshole all the time? No, but I'm just letting you know that in that moment, someone's gaining something from it. Even when someone's being an asshole to you, you're gaining a different perspective. You're gaining maybe strength, the ability to stand up for yourself, the confirmation that you needed, right? About a belief that you had. So you are always in fair exchange. Absolutely always. When someone comes and gives you flowers or buys you a coffee, they're feeling good about themselves because they've done something for you. And that's the fair exchange. You don't owe them anything. You're immediately in balance all the time. So even with me going on this trip, going on this holiday, whoever paid for the trip, they wanted me to go on this holiday. They feel good about the fact that I can go enjoy that now. And I don't feel like I'm indebted because I feel like I deserve this and I created this. And also I know that the people that wanted me on the trip are just happy that I'm coming. So it's worth it, right? So it's imbalance. So that is how you can shift that perspective. And some situations are obviously going to be a little more difficult than other situations. But when you can see the fair exchange in everything, you gain all power and all control back, because we don't want debt in our creator field. We don't want to be overcompensating. We don't want to be scrambling to, like, feeling like you need to overcompensate is not a how do I say, like a sexy energy, is it? It's not a very attractive energy. It looks like someone scrambling to like fix the situation, feeling like they're trying to get ahead of something, right? And they're always running behind. And so it's not the energy you want when you want to be a successful goddess who runs the show and knows exactly what, where, when, and how, and feels strong and independent, right? When you're overcompensating, when you're feeling indebted, we don't want that energy in our energetic field. We don't want that energy because it programs this self-doubt, it programs overcompensation, it programs like you owe money. It's things that we don't want in our creator field. So this brings me to another thing, and I may go into another podcast on this on another day, but just to quickly scratch the surface, this also works in the way that when you feel owed to, right? So it's also negative. The thing is, when you feel owed, like you haven't gotten what you deserved, then that doesn't cause people to owe you more. It actually, because it's negative. So this is the thing. It scratches the surface because there's so much more you can tap into here, because there is a sense of, there's more you can play around with. But I'll give you this for today. So you don't want to feel that negative energy, right? You don't want to feel that negative energy of being owed. There's a difference with being owed and feeling being deserving, right? So being deserving is something like you made a deal with someone and your partners, and you fulfilled your end of the bargain. So now you're expecting. So it's not being owed, but you know that it's coming. It's a different energy. Does that make sense? So how can I best explain this? I don't know if I can. I don't know. Like there's no other option but for the other party to pay. So there's a difference there. But this is a nuance, and I'm getting too complicated with this now. But just, we want to be in fair exchange. So my challenge for you is to look at right now, are you feeling, because I know 100% we all have someone that we feel that we're out of fair exchange in, and see if you can neutralize and actually see that you are 100% in fair exchange all the time. Now, this is another angle that I want to take today, because when it comes to the spiritual world, a lot of us think that, it's God's work, it's Source's work, it's, we're light workers, we are doing something on behalf of Source, so we shouldn't charge money for it, it should be for free. But here we're getting into trouble because we are working on behalf of a greater energy to raise the frequency of the world. So when we don't charge for the value that we give others, I want to ask you one question. When you get a bag from a designer brand, or you get a bag from, Temu, I guess, let's say Temu or Shein or whatever, one of those, which one are you going to take better care of? Which one are you going to value more? You're going to value the designer bag more. And that is because you put more skin in the game for that bag. So you're gonna protect it, you're gonna seal it, you're gonna be very careful for it, because the thing is, money is an energy. It is literally an energy. And so back in the day, when we used to when we didn't have money we didn't have a currency yet, you would trade services. So and based on the value of the service or the thing, you would get something else in return, fair exchange, right? So I would go and, I could get an egg in exchange for a potato. I don't know, I'm just making shit up, or, right, someone would come help you fix your roof in exchange for a bag of coffee. something like that. That's how we used to work. But because that the value started getting kind of lost, we created money, right? So we created money to keep everything in fair exchange. So money isn't energy. It's a way of paying for services to keep the balance, to keep the energetic exchange of things so that things were evenly valued. Because otherwise the system doesn't work. So actually, money is an extremely spiritual thing. It is something that elevates and gives a platform. So think of successful people in the spiritual world. They needed a platform, and the way to get the platform is through wealth and financial gain, and that is the only way that we can reach more people, right? So that you can do work on behalf of the universe, of source, to get everybody to a higher frequency. But on another level, when you get something back to the designer bag, I have had this multiple times where I've gotten a free training, or I've gotten entered a free portal or something like that. Even though there is value in there that is worth gold, I know that I didn't put as much skin in the game or mentally, because I knew it cost nothing, even though the value is there, right? Mentally, somewhere in the back of your mind, you're thinking it's not as valuable as if you pay X amount of dollars for it, where you take it more seriously. So why I'm saying this is because what happens when we are giving a service. So for all of you ladies who are starting your business or are wanting to grow and nervous about, charging people a certain amount of money, the value that you're providing is life-changing, is literally going to shift their entire universe. And at the same time, you could say that one thing that is going to change their life and could make them double the amount that they invested in your product, right? So what happens if you give that away at such a low? So for example, I have life-changing advice and I charge $1 for this life-changing advice. What happens when they take that in and they take that session? So think about going to a psychic and getting a tarot reading for $1. Are you going to take it as seriously as someone who charges $500, $600 for a reading? Probably not, because somewhere in the back of your mind, you know that the more skin you put into the game, the more you're going to value it, the more work you're going to put into that, right? We immediately categorize it. So why I'm saying this is because I want you to know your value, and I want you to recognize on a bigger picture, if you're trying to transform people's lives and you're charging a low amount, what can start happening, or nothing at all, you're going to give this amazing high frequency, life-changing content or advice, and the person is not going to take it on board as much as if they would if they put more skin in the game, right? So it decreases the value of source information, and that can be an insult to, how do I explain this in the best way, to source to light information, because it's going to go down the toilet basically. I kind of just see it kind of being like, oh, and not downloaded. So watched but not fully downloaded because you didn't invest the amount of money that it was worth. So therefore, you're not as invested in it. That's what it is, right? That is why when we invest more in something, we have more of a foot in the door where we go and we do the thing, because we're like, I invested this much, so I better get out of it what I invested, right? So that's a little caveat that I wanted to add, because another thing that can start happening if you're not charging is you're still going to feel owed. Even though you put this thing in, we're going to feel owed. We're going to be out of balance. Our perception is going to be that we're out of balance. So there always needs to be a fair exchange in everything. And if you feel like you're being owed, or if you feel like you owe someone something, that is going to broadcast in your energetic field. And it also has to do a lot with your value, right? And what you offer. There's so many more avenues that you can go into with this, but this can make a big difference in whether if you're trying to grow or not. If you feel out of fair exchange with the things that you're doing, this can cause big problems with your growth financially, with your success, with your value, with all of this stuff. So we always want to make sure that we are in balance, because, and if you can logically and get the perception that you're in balance, it's going to shift so much in your life, and you're actually you can start creating the opposite, right? So that's the power of the subconscious. That's the power of reprogramming these things. It can shift everything in your reality. So if you are feeling owed after the holiday season, or if you feel like you owe someone after the holiday season, you do not. If you're questioning your value, or if you're questioning whether you should, be charging more, root to the value that you have and see how that also shifts and how people appreciate the amount of things that you are doing, right? That's what it's all about. It's like, yeah, we put more skin in the game. We want to see the fair exchange in things so that we don't have that debt feeling, but also so that we know that we're getting what it's worth, if that makes sense. So the issue is when we're out of fair exchange, especially when we're doing certain actions, you're also not going to get as much out of it as you would if you were in fair exchange. So I know I've gone into a lot of directions with this topic, and please feel free if you feel lost or something didn't make sense. That is my fault for not explaining it correctly. So comment below or email us, or if you want to know more about this topic, let me know, and we will do another podcast about it or episode about it, and we'll dive deeper into this concept. But I hope this already starts shifting your perspective about us. Some things, and you can start seeing that you're not indebted. You don't owe anybody anything. You don't need to be overcompensating because you've already done everything. You're already in balance the moment the exchange has been made. All right, beautiful. Have an amazing evening, night, day. I hope to see you in the next episode. If it is the Christmas episode, I want to wish you a Merry Christmas. If it is after the Christmas episode, then I want to wish you already almost a Happy New Year. And I hope you have an amazing end of 2025 and beginning of 2026, because we are going to be so strong in this year. We're really going to be stepping into our goddess energy, our goddess power, because I know you can do it. And this year is the year that you're going to start unlocking even more levels and upgrades of yourself. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope to see you in the next episode of, maybe it might be the first episode of 2026. Well, have an amazing evening. I hope you had the amazing holidays, or are going to have amazing holidays. And I wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Thank you so much for listening to You Can Call Me Goddess. I am so happy that you joined us in this show today. If you feel like this podcast gave you any sort of life change or value, then share it with someone you think would also get a lot of value out of it, because maybe it could just be that one thing that changes that person's life. If you enjoyed the show, please give it a nice rating below or in the show, because we would love to expand more on topics that you enjoy and keep this podcast up and running. Anyways, thank you, beautiful, and I hope to see you in the next podcast.